Hello and welcome back to Your Turn. I'm your host, Nazi Javid. Today with me is Dr. Saeed Mansour. He is the coordinator of the Islamic Society of Santa Rosa. We're having a very important conversation about the conflict going on in the Gaza Strip right now. First of all, this is nothing new. This has been a long-term conflict for many years.
60 years.
What is the root of all of this?
If you allow me, I would like to use an analogy in order, because I think people in the United States in particular and the West has been bombarded with all kinds of misinformation and even lies about the root cause of this issue. It all started 60 years ago. And if you allow me, I'm going to use an analogy to make it maybe more understandable. It's like you're sitting in your house. Somebody comes from outside, armed to the teeth, and walk into your house, shoot some of your family, and then whoever is left is being pushed out of the house and thrown into the backyard of your neighbor's house. So the neighbor said, come and stay with us until we find an issue to this problem. And then those gangs would go bring their families and take your house, enjoy your furniture, enjoy your food, enjoy your kitchen, and you are sitting across the fence and watching these people, holding a gun to your head even while you're sitting in your neighbor's backyard, and said, okay, now we need to be good neighbors. And not just that, and 1967, they come and even occupy and take that even neighbor's backyard and put you under military occupation for more than 40 years. And that's exactly the analogy of what happened. What happened is in 1948, when the State of Israel has been created, the European Jews came from Europe and they took over Palestine with the help of Europe, because Europe was feeling the guilt of what happens to the Jews in Europe by the Nazis, which the Palestinians has nothing to do with it. Now they took our land and they kicked us out as refugees. So they cleansed the land because they want to bring the Jews from Europe. So they cleansed the land, pushed the Palestinians into territories like Gaza Strip, into Jordan, into Syria, into Lebanon. In fact, from the beginning, Israel have used a myth or a lie. They said this is a land without people, to people without land, in order to justify for the Europeans. And the Europeans, of course, knew the facts, but who cares? It's somebody else's land. They came and took over Palestine. And for your information, Gaza today have 1.5 million people in a small strip. There is 5 people living on each square yard. Ask me why. It's because 70% of these people are refugees. They came from the land which is called now Israel. Where Sderot is being built on the homes of those people. So more than 1 million of those people living in Gaza today are refugees who came from the land being appropriated for the Israelis in 1948. And they have been living in those refugee camps for the last 60 years. For your information, most of the Hamas leadership are refugees. Even Haniyeh, who is the prime minister, he lives in a refugee camp as we speak.
Wow.
So that's what happened in 1948. In 1967, Israel occupied the rest of Gaza Strip and the West Bank. And those are what our people call today are the occupied territories.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that too. Why are, Gaza and the West Bank the areas of conflict? Because they have,
again, it's now becoming like acceptable that whatever Israel have took in 1948 is theirs. Let's not worry about it. Now, for Israel, in order to convince the Palestinians not to ask for what they had been taken from them in 1948, they occupied the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, which is only 28% of Palestine, historic Palestine. Because Israel had been created initially on 70% of historic Palestine. And then in 1967, Israel came and occupied the West Bank and Gaza Strip. And the Palestinians in both the West Bank and Gaza have been living under brutal military occupation for 41 years now. 41 years. And when I talk about brutality, it's indescribable.
Well, what role does religion play in all of this? Because the Jews will say, well, the Torah says that this is our historical homeland. Where does the religion, the conflict in religion?
This history argument, I think, could be a double sword, by the way. How far you want to go back in history? This Palestine is being inhabited by the Philistines before the Hebrews came. So, I mean, it depends. If you want to go 3,000 years, I can go 4,000 years. And who was there 4,000 years? Now, Jews, as of course, followers of an Abrahamic religion. Now, I say Abrahamic. Where does Abraham came from? He came from Iraq. He came from Babylonian. I mean, he came to Palestine. And he is the father of Isaac and Jacob. So if I want to take it back, okay, well, he came from Iraq. So in a sense, the Philistines have been there before the Hebrews ever showed up in that land. Okay? Now, Israel, of course, and the Zionist movement have used religion or abused a great faith, like, Judaism, in order to justify their ill plan, which is to rally the Jews of the world behind an idea. A lot of Jews have rejected Zionism in the beginning. But of course, after the Holocaust and after what happened to the Jews in Europe, all of them rallied behind an idea, we're unsafe, and we need some kind of protection. And Zionism, as if they came and provided for them that kind of security. But Zionism is the least religious. I mean, it has to do nothing with the Judaism more than an idea they abused in order, to justify, to rally the Jews first, and justify for the world, especially the Christian world, who feels guilty about what happened by the Christians to the Jews, in order just to appropriate the land of Palestine. Should we feel guilty about what happened with the Holocaust? Of course. I mean, any human life is a tragedy. Of course, we are. I mean, nobody accepts that, and we are. It's a tragedy, and the world should have learned from it. But that does not give the same people who've been persecuted to persecute others exactly the same way, and even worse. Honestly, if I look today at the leaders of Israel, they're worse than Hitler. What is the difference? Aren't they killing women and children and innocent people? Aren't they bombing schools and doing concentration camps? What Gaza is? Yeah, it's a concentration camp. It's been circled for about 3 years now. It is. If you go to the West Bank, I've been to the West Bank this past summer. You were? How was it there? It's awful. I mean, checkpoint after checkpoint, you cannot go from one town to the other without going through Israeli checkpoint, and you have to be humiliated, and you have to accept that. And you have to stand there for hours. Oh, we're going to take it to break. This is a lot of important things to know to get the word out in the community on different opinions on this terrible conflict. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment.